I hope we can all see that.
I hope we can all hear that.
I just...
You were supposed to go, I hope we can all touch that. And we just, never mind.
Intro. How's it going, dude?
I'm good. How are you?
Cool, man. Has anyone ever told you got tape on your neck?
I do have tape on my neck. So what I'm doing is it helps me with the headphones. I loop them over my ears and that. And then just a trick I learned when I was doing MC work and that you just tape the various cables to your neck and it keeps it in place. It doesn't move and fiddle and disturb what I've currently got going on here. So tape on the neck to keep things in place.
Look at you being all pro. Nice.
I know, right? Until we can get one of those proper like countryman side mics or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, dude.
Or back in a studio with you where I can also have a nice cool microphone stuck in my face.
That would be ideal. But yeah,
maybe
dude,
when we go down to another lockdown level or something, who knows?
Yeah, and on that, topic, we are being addressed by the president tonight. Obviously, that won't be by the time this video broadcasts, but it's interesting times, man. I wonder what's going to happen, because I think this is the first time. I mean, you said you might have like mates that have a little bit of insight, but most of the time people have had like exact things. They know exactly what's going to be addressed. Everyone was pretty sure we were going into lockdown. We went into lockdown. People were pretty sure about the stages, and we went and like, this is the first time. I don't know if it's just because of lack of interest and me just trying to move on with my life, but I have no idea. I mean, you've talked, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, your suspicions and stuff you've heard from people, but this is the first time I have no idea. I'm just like, whatever, man.
Yeah, I have heard varying theories and stuff, and the most sensible, rational one that was being bandied about was all around the kind of, when you're in doubt or you're unsure of things, kind of go back to purpose. And the purpose of isolation and lockdown was to almost give some lead time to all the medical institutions, facilities, emergency services, just to kind of ramp up their functionality or capability to handle the patients that would be potentially getting infected with the disease and having to be able to assist them and see them through it to recovery. Lockdown level 5 or ultimate lockdown certainly seemed to buy the time necessary for that to happen. So much so that things were rearing to go, not a lot of sort of beds being filled during that stage with serious infection, shall we say. The decision came to lessen the restraints slightly, with the sort of understanding that as people started to interact a bit more, get around each other a bit more, some of those curves would go from like a flat to spiking again. And I think what we've seen is only really the Western Cape region here in South Africa. They have spiked quite heavily and sharply. So some of the suspicions there are potentially they might look at various regions, provinces, etc. in the country and go, great, how are things looking there? Can we lessen the restraints on them even more, take them down to like a level 3? Or if the curve is spiking up again and hospitals are nearing capacity, do we need to then move them back to more severe lockdown restraints, level 5 or something of that nature? So my suspicion is that's what they'll do. They'll announce that they're going to look at region by region, etc. And some regions will have lower restrictions than others, and some might have more severe until their hospitals can get back to a level where they can cope with another wave of cases and people that need treatment, etc.
What I'm interested in, dude, is like, and again, I'm nowhere near qualified to really comment, but it's the first thing that came to my mind when you said that is, we kind of know statistically, if you take COVID-19 and everything out the picture, generally Western Cape is a more efficiently run province. I mean, the stats are there. Generally, they're just like the city's cleaner and all that jazz. So it makes me wonder, is the numbers that they comparing relative to the amount of tests done? So what if Western Cape's done more tests, so it looks like the spike is higher, but Joburg's just not getting around to it, so it looks lower? I don't know if you
Yeah,
get what I
man,
mean.
I
So
don't know. I'm not sure.
so people are going to be penalized for being more efficient, if that makes sense.
It does make more sense. I think the other note there, and certainly some information that I was sort of shared with me, was what they've seen is the large portion of their infections and their hits were coming out of their informal settlements and their townships and things like that. So potentially something to sort of see, like, even with restraints, restrictions, etc., there's only so much you can do in those types of conditions. So their infection rate did spike. A lot of folks would assume something similar should happen here in South Africa, in Gauteng, Johannesburg area with our informal settlements, and it doesn't seem to have been the case yet. So, yeah, maybe we'll have to see how that goes. It could also be linked to just sheer data and numbers. Like you say, tests being done there versus here, potentially. And then, if you really want to go left field conspiracy theory, I've heard a whole series of folks speculating that they're not releasing all of the data for up here in Gauteng because they're worried about panic or fear or backlash. If people hear that the infection rate has increased or spiked, some folks might go, you know what, I'm done with this lockdown, I can't take it, and that upset might boil over to a bit of civil unrest.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing, dude, is like, it's that balance, right? We've talked about this. Is like, I think to a degree, governments still do need to keep some data away from the general public because people lose their minds. But we in this this age of like data and information, and the more you try to hide it, it boils over, and it feeds conspiracy theories and stuff. And like, again, I mean, we're still so far into this, and now I'm talking internationally. There's so much mixed news. Like, I watched Elon Musk on Joe Rogan's podcast the other day.
Yeah.
And dude, he talked about it's apparently well documented where a third of hospitals are empty because they're waiting on COVID-19 cases, and even if they died from something else, they get subsidized or incentivized with money if they, classified as a COVID-19 death, as reason of death. And they get further incentivized if they use ventilators. And what's happening, according to Elon Musk, again, I can't quote this, he literally came out of his mouth, but what he said is, which makes a bit of sense, which is, he said the hospitals now are a third capacity because they're standing empty. Combination of things. One, they're preparing for only COVID-19. Other normal people that might have a sprained ankle don't want to go into hospital because they're scared they'd get infected, right? So they'd rather stay at home. And then these hospitals are sitting empty, and then the hospitals have to make these really tough decisions. They're like, well, do we fire doctors and let them go because we still got costs? Or do we just mark on the little paper COVID-19 and get all that income in to carry on running our hospital? And they're faced with what's essentially an impossible challenge because they want to carry on running their hospitals. Now, similarly, I never get that word right. You got something else, like another credible news source that I watch occasionally, the Ben Shapiro show, and he interviewed a New York surgeon, very high up in her ranks, and she said at the moment in I can't remember the hospital's name, it's one of the busiest hospitals. They currently are operating at 300% capacity, but they got it down. They're like organized. They're ready for it. And she said she's seeing things that she's never seen in her life. And she said, taking into account that she's only seeing a third of the patients, like the 1/3 gets sent home and just self-quarantine. Third maybe gets infected, very basic, go home, gets treated. But she's seeing the third, and she's seeing drastic things, dude. Like 24-year-olds are coming in there with like lung diseases that she's never seen, and they're dying. And it is the rare cases. And she said, like, they are flooded. It's the busiest that they've ever been, but they've got it under control. So it's like, I've just given you two serious packs of opposite views, but from very credible up there people. The one thing that Elon Musk did say is, after that, he very, very briefly said that, like, people just need to release the real data so we can really figure out what to do with this.
Well, sure, and dude, it's as old as governments themselves. Is how much do the people need to know? How
Yeah.
much will feed or put them at ease, or how much will send them into a spiral of panic, unrest, etc. So, China is obviously the extreme with how they control the flow of information, relevant or not. I think North Korea is probably the pinnacle, but that's more on the propaganda side. And every other kind of government sort of falls somewhere in between. Again, I think it's a very unique situation, difficult situation for any government or leaders to face. Where, what is the correct approach right now as we go? They're forming the models, the way to handle COVID part 2 or whatever the next big virus is that comes our way.
Yeah, that is one relevant thing that I would say that I took from Elon Musk said also. He said that what he personally thinks, again, he said he needs the data, but he said he thinks everyone thought it was way worse and reacted accordingly. And now big heads and stuff don't want to back on their decisions because they're going to look stupid. But what he said is the silver lining that will come out of this is that we'll be better prepared for when an Ebola type threat comes that's killing 20-year-old young, healthy people at a faster rate, and it's got every bad part of a virus. He said he thinks that hopefully vaccines will be investigated, and just in general there'll be a bigger awareness of this. Yeah, man.
And he's right. I agree.
It goes back to, I know I've said this before, but the thing that bothers me though is, again, you've got so many people, mixed feelings, and I'm sure you've seen, dude. I mean, a lot of people are now like, South Africans would say hutful of this. They're tired. Worldwide, I think they are. And what scares me is that it's that cry wolf thing. So eventually when the bad pandemic comes, everyone's going to be like, it's not like, if it's like COVID, and everyone will just ignore it. And it'll be like, no, why humans, why? and that's the whole information thing. That's a bummer, dude.
I don't know. Again, I like and I agree with Musk's silver lining is we're laying the modern framework for when something else comes around, bigger, better, worse, whatever the case might be. I think governments are learning from this too, so hopefully all kinds of welfare funds and things will be established and created in order to better cope with a second evolution of a pandemic where they can lock things down and people can get subsidies from government to supplement incomes better, etc., in future situations like this. So I don't know. I don't know if we've had a few sort of semi-milestones during this lockdown, and I know one of them that was like now for us on the weekend was Mother's Day. And I'll be honest, we found a way to get together as a family, which was awesome. Nice to see everybody at a social kind of distance, all of us sitting at various points at a large table. But right or wrong, we just needed to I think have that interaction. Same thing today. It was like one of my first days back in the office at work. The whole sort of sales team agreed to come in, sit, interact with each other, spend that time, and it's amazing how much just general catching up, interacting we were doing before we even put our heads down to start working. Much needed, guys just wanting to talk about things, because one of the guys summed it up quite nicely. He says when you're at home, you can't really, there's certain things you don't generally talk about in the household, with the kids, with the wife, spouse, partner, whatever it is. In the workplace, you can talk about these things, and a lot of it is work-related topics, industry-related topics in our case. You would know when you're at your office with the various other editors, filmmakers and stuff there, you guys, you talk shop, and you can't necessarily talk shop at home with your wife or even with me, as an example, because of limited exposure to those things. And just that, dude, that couple hours at the office to talk shop was very cool. Was awesome. So hopefully we get to do more of that as they decrease these severity things, man.
Yeah. So what else have you been doing to sort of pass the time? You taking on yoga, learned a new language? Come on, dude.
I think we've both been doing a lot of editing of our podcast clips, and I've even got to say on that, man, you know, I did editing a long time ago, good 6-7 years ago. It's nice to get back into it. Just granted, they're not the most complicated edits on the planet. There's not a lot of visual effects or anything in it, but it's just cool to work with a different kind of medium, platform, etc. To pass some time. I've been reading where possible. So I think, we're probably going to dive in a little bit more in depth on that in another video clip. Found myself re-downloading Elementary, the TV show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, just had this hankering for that specific Sherlock, and the first couple episodes, rewatching it again, I just thought to myself, wow, there was certainly an era the last couple years where I don't think we were overloaded, but I certainly think we were spoiled for Sherlock choice. I mean, I think about the Sherlock show from the BBC with Benedict Cumberbatch in the role of Sherlock. I think of Robert Downey playing Sherlock in the large Guy Ritchie films. And Johnny Lee Miller being Sherlock in the Elementary TV show.
Elementary, dude, I know people had mixed the thoughts on it, but like it's still just the story arcs and stuff and the way they've tied it into modern day. It's actually one of my favorite poems. I don't know if you remember the scene. It's one of the end of the series where Lucy Liu gives him an old beaten up frame, and I've actually got that framed in my room. It's a quote by Robert Frost. And it's basically like choosing to live, and it's like you're not done with your life yet. It's a tad deep, but you know me, man. Like, and I actually found it through Elementary, and I went and like read up on the poet, Robert Frost.
That's awesome.
Very cool stuff, man. But
and I did. I liked. You know, if I look at all of the various things that we've had recently, I thought the movies I loved their take and how they represented his thought processes in the movie, with those sort of inner monologues, and he would run these
scenarios.
Correct, 100%. The Moriarty in that I thought was a good, almost textbook representation of Moriarty based on the Arthur Conan Doyle books. Then I look at the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock TV show, and that Moriarty, very different Moriarty. The thing that I loved about him was, especially when you first meet him at the pool, and how he flips quickly from composed, calculating to just pure psychotic. When he stares at him, he goes, "I will burn the heart out of you." I was like, wow. And he literally turns on a dime. And for me, that was very reminiscent of how I envisioned the Joker in comic books to be. 1 minute calculating, methodical, 1 minute just all over the place, like just a clown, and then another minute, like literally for no reason and on a dime, he'll flip to that psychotic, like, I'll burn the fucking heart out of you.
Have you ever seen that scene from Gotham, the TV show, where Jerome essentially, that's exactly what, to me, that's the first thing that when you said what you said, like, he nailed it, man. Like this innocent little naive kid, and then he just flips, and you're like in the interrogation room, and I was like, what just happened?
They're talking about his mother and stuff like that. You're like, where did that come from? But for me, that is the Joker, and the thing that makes it so terrifying is it's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to set that kind of a person off, and one step further, what the ramifications are going to be, you know? And that's when I found these guys nail it. And what I liked in Elementary was the Watson twist flip dynamic, having Lucy Liu as Watson. I thought that was...
And as a sober companion, makes so much sense in context of...
Because even in the books and the movies, he does dabble with recreations. So recreationals, shall I say. So very, very cool. And the Moriarty twist in Elementary, I thought was also like so clever. So yeah, I just find it's one of these, I have a selection of TV shows that I can always have playing in the background, and it's because of the incredible dialogue between the characters and all of that stuff. And Elementary is definitely up there. The educated language that Johnny Lee Miller's Holmes uses, I love that, and I love just I can have it on and just listen to it and know exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and what amazes me about him is, as a person, look, I don't have intellect near like that, but I am one of those humans that my brain doesn't turn off. I struggle with that, and you can literally see it just out of his body mannerisms in the show that his brain is working overtime, so much so faster than everyone else's, and he can't get that out.
You can't turn it off.
Yeah, he knows no one will understand him anyway. So how he tries to manage that and slowly builds that up with Lucy Liu, or Watson, obviously. I think it's thought through really well in that show.
Definitely, the character and relationship development in the show is on another level. It's definitely one of my all-time favorites.
But yeah.
So, if you liked what Mark and I were talking about here, or just like our content in general,
please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more videos.
And do us a favor and find us on the social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram.
See you in the next video.